All right, how's everyone doing? I'm Rich CELENZA. Thanks for tuning into the Rich CELENZA Show. WTF are you talking about? So what I want to call today's episode is Learn to Brainwash Yourself. I know what you're thinking. That's kind of crazy. I'm going to kind of get into that. It's just kind of a catchy title. Hopefully people will look at it and go, what the hell is he talking about? And that's what I do sometimes with my titles. Obviously, I don't mean for you to one, go out and brainwash people or force your beliefs on other people, nor do I expect other people to force their beliefs on you or, any of that stuff. It's more in a joking manner, more or less. Learn how to wash out your brain a little bit, clean it up, and start kind of getting information in there or doing things you want to do. So that's really what this is going to be about, this podcast. And here's the thing, as you know, I'm always talking about different things regarding programming your brain. And I think as we get older, it's harder and harder to do because when you're younger, you're just a big sponge, right? And basically people, I'm not saying they're brainwashing you, but parents a lot of times are the ones who program us, right? Or it could be our elders, it could be friends, other family members. As you get older, colleagues, we take on all these traits, which you already know. But to a certain degree, a lot of things when you're growing up, you're being yelled at, scolded, being told if you don't do this, this is going to happen, especially when it comes to religion. You're going to, if you do this, or if you don't do this, you'll go to hell. If you do this, you'll go to hell. If, you have all these things your parents or other people, especially elderly, kind of not only programming you, but kind of brainwashing you to a certain degree. Some's good, some is bad, right? A lot of times, let's admit it, there's a lot of things that we may have been surrounded by that as we got older that we thought were right then, and we're looking back and saying that, that's not right. And it could be even dealing with racism. It could be even dealing with the way a lot of our ancestors were kind of raised in their old country, let's say, or things they went through. And a lot of times it was just to protect us to a certain degree, right? But as you know, as time goes on, it's just educating yourself. Like a lot of people, I'd hate to say it, a lot of immigrants, or at least I was raised by Italian immigrants, they weren't the most educated people in the world. Not that that's bad. They just weren't. So we're learning a lot of their beliefs, and I'm just using them for an example. And there's, we take on our parents and, like I said, siblings, and it could be teachers. It could be whoever's in that position to teach us things. And a lot of times we're gullible. We don't know any better. And I'm not even talking when we're children. I'm talking in our teens and even our 20s, right? We're going to all kind of gravitate towards something. Some good, some bad we're going to take from other people. But what I'm talking regarding the brainwashing thing regarding us is kind of learning to entirely kind of like clean your brain out a little bit and start doing things that you really want to do and almost brainwashing yourself now. Now, again, that doesn't mean in your mind verbally screaming at yourself, bashing yourself, or making yourself feel bad if you don't do something a certain way, or if you're not accomplishing all the things that you really should be accomplishing, or all of a sudden that you decide to accomplish. Because I've done that myself, especially making films. I became obsessed with wanting to make film, or making films, movies, writing screenplays, and before you know it, I drove everybody crazy, including myself. It was almost like my production partner once said, if you took two crack addicts, right, who were obsessed on crack that ran around the streets just doing crack, if you flipped it and said, okay, we have these two obsessed filmmakers running around and all they do, talk about and think about is film, like it really was almost, I know when you're doing drugs, obviously, is you're physically hurting yourself. I wasn't physically hurting myself, but mentally, it was very daunting. Let's just put it that way. We just say it as a joke, but that's kind of how obsessed we became with trying to make it into the film industry. It exhausted us financially to a certain degree, destroyed us for a long period of time, almost like a drug addict. And I really had to sit back and say, especially after my divorce, who's the problem here? And I'm not saying I'm here to blame myself entirely for my divorce or any of that, but who am I as a human being now? What have I become? And I always thought becoming a part of the film industry would make everything complete in my life, and it would be a whole thing. And I'm one of those guys who jumps into things I even call it feet first into the pool. I go head first and it's empty. I could care less. I'm going to dive into it. I'm going to almost start programming myself. It's almost militant that whatever I believe I feel like I want to do, I'm going to do it. Regardless what anyone else says. I didn't even go to film school. Never write a screenplay, never held a camera, and all of a sudden I decided to make a movie because I always wanted to. Would I tell someone else to do that? Probably not. I'd say, learn a lot more, learn the business aspect. But then again, I did it that way, and I learned so much, and I enjoyed the ride. So, back to the brainwash thing. If there are certain things you want to do in your life, this is just something I've seen lately because I'm middle-aged. I'm going on 50 now. And I see so many people at my age thinking they're out of time. And if the average human, at least male or female, I think it varies 76 to 80 years old in the United States. If I'm 50, that's still a lot of years. Now, am I going to go out, and I've discussed this before, and become a middle linebacker for the Chicago Bears, which was one of my dreams as a child? No, that most likely is not going to happen. But if I was somebody that was still interested in football and wanted to be a part of the NFL, hypothetically, or college or high school, I can actually do it. I believe you can become a coach, an umpire, referee, whatever you choose to do. You have to realize you have got to start almost brainwashing yourself to believing in yourself again. Because a lot of us kind of quit believing in our dreams and ourself. Why? I have no idea. Again, I think this goes back to society saying, maybe when we're younger or whatever, that we're too old now. And if you don't do this by this age, this is going to happen. If you don't become a millionaire by this, this will happen. If you didn't. And I think the pressures I see in our country, United States, and I'm in Canada too, but even when you're 20, you kind of feel like you're running out of time. I always kind of did. For one, I didn't think I'd live that long, but put that aside. Because all of a sudden you're in your 20s or mid-20s, you're like, oh my God. At least this is how it was in the 80s and 90s. I can't say it now. But you're like, oh my God, I should be having children soon. I should be getting married. I should have a house by this age. I should have this type of car at this age. And again, those are all things our parents or society has kind of programmed us to believe. I think those things are changing. God bless. Where you're not getting all these people down your throat telling you people are getting smarter. But I still believe like all of a sudden, then in your 30s, why don't I have this much money in the bank? Why don't I have a bigger house? Why don't I vacation more? You always feel under the gun and you always feel like you're running out of time. Same, I think, in people's careers. Like, if I'm not at this point in, at this stage in my life, or if I'm an entrepreneur, why am I not succeeding at this point in my life? You're carrying all that baggage around, and you're almost looking at all the things you don't have, again, instead of all the things you have. And I think we need to just sit back and really relax, but first figure out in our mind, and I did a podcast, just sit down and think, or lay down and think, really figure out who you really are and what you really want. You've probably been extremely busy, especially if you're middle-aged, I'm just saying. Or whatever, if you're a parent or anything. You've been so consumed in your kids' lives, maybe even your wife's lives or your ex-wife's lives or your girlfriend, or all these different things started to happen where you kind of got consumed in a lot of what their needs are and other people's as well. And sometimes, don't get me wrong, we do a lot of things sometimes selfishly, which is, I don't care what anybody says. If you can't make yourself happy or you're not doing things that are making you happy, most likely it's really hard to make everybody else happy. I mean, even if you're making millions of dollars, don't get me wrong, and other people are living off your millions, they may be happy, but if you're killing yourself to do that and you feel like shit, how does that work out for you? You can't almost even enjoy that with them. But I think with our brain again, it's almost like, and I talk about reprogramming ourselves, is you've got to start, it's not just thinking about it though too, it's about really surrounding yourselves and taking action, obviously, and really just figuring out in your brain what the fuck you want to be. And I said that earlier, but I don't think people really know what they want. They know what they don't want. I always talk about that. I don't want this. If you hear people talk, well, here's the problem. That's always how they start a sentence. Well, you don't understand. It's always that one. Or it's, You don't know what I've been through. It's that one. No one gives a shit. But here's something that I find quite interesting regarding adults becoming kind of programmed or being brainwashed. If you want to look at it being good or bad, it is what it is. So I have actually, I got 3 cousins now that were in the military. So I have number 1 who just got out. I think he was in 7 to 8 years, and he just got out. We'll call him number 1. And he was from Chicago, went to Tampa. Now I think he's back in Chicago. And then I have a number 2 who is from Florida, right? He went into the military and he just did SEAL training, actually of all places, Chicago. And then number 3, I have a younger cousin that I'm pretty sure went into the Marines. What's interesting is knowing all of them from when they were basically babies, right? Not babies, but knowing them when they were younger and just seeing them grow, especially you see them on Facebook and everything, how they were one way, and then after joining the military, they're another. Now, you're going to say, of course they are, because they went to boot camp and all these type of things, and they were, if you want to call it brainwashing or reprogramming, building confidence, getting them prepared to protect our country, right? Makes sense, right? But what is quite interesting is how 3 of them were so different that I noticed. So number 1, he literally from 5, 6 years old knew he was going to the Marines. He was obsessed with infantry, wanted war. All his toys, everything as a child, all the way up to when he joined, was military. He acted like a kid in the military, which was amazing. He knew what he was doing. Let's take number 2 in Florida. He was more of a fit kid, really athletic, more into sports. So that would kind of make sense, because I don't know where he wanted to go after his, he wasn't going to play college sports. He decided, hey, I'm going to go into the military. It's a natural fit. And eventually, I think he did SEAL training. I think eventually he wants to go to Coronado and become a Navy SEAL, which is amazing. That's what I think we discussed something like that. And number 3, the younger one, his dad was in the military, and then he was kind of out there. Last time I saw him was actually at a Starbucks. I ran into him, and he was just at Starbucks, and he was having, his family are all painters. His father's a painter, and his grandfather owns a painting company, and that's a family of painters. A lot of my family members painted, and I don't know if he didn't like that, but he was at Starbucks, which I found quite interesting. Next thing I'm hearing, he's joining the, Marines. I'm almost pretty sure it is. I seen him getting sworn in on Facebook. And he was kind of, I don't want to say a lost soul, but he never looked like the guy who was going to go into the military at all. Not a tough guy, not an athlete. Almost the complete opposite, I would say, of my cousin in Florida, number 2, who was, that guy who looks like a stud. And my other cousin, he's a handsome kid, Italian kid, just totally different dispositions. Now that they're all out, so number 1 is done with the military. I just saw him at a birthday party. Thanked him for his service. He did what he wanted to do in there, and he thought it was time to move on. And I think, like we discussed, he was so obsessed with being in the military from 6 years old, and now I think he's going on 30. He's like, I feel like I've been in this my whole life, and I get it. Number 2, I haven't seen him since he's got out, but he did get through SEAL training, and he looks great. And he almost looks the same. The 3rd one now, unbelievable change. His disposition, he looks bigger, stronger. It's amazing when you see people go into the military, how some go in jacked or big or heavy or even muscular, and they come out and they're really thinner or fitter. He went in thin and came out bigger. And my point being is, they all went in and almost, like we talked about, they got reprogrammed, obviously, in the military, but they had to be open-minded. And I get that they're in boot camp or whatever whatever training they're in for X amount of time. You're not going to do that, and I get that. But what's amazing is when they do come out, they have a different type of confidence, I believe, a lot of times. And I think if the military teaches anything, it's not only to be a badass, it's to protect our country and protect others. And obviously protect themselves so they can help protect others. But it's a mindset. And I think we all can have that mindset, really, or at least a majority of us can. And I know, again, these guys are younger, 18, 19, 20, 21. But even if you look at guys that are in the military that are lifers, my girlfriend's father was in the military 30, 35 years. He's a small Filipino guy, can't weigh 150 pounds. But he is a man's man. What he's, what he does, he says, he's just, you can tell being in the military made him that confident. Now, if I'm saying the confidence thing because not only because I teach a confidence program, I'm not even here to pitch that. But if you want to do something or be something, you first have to become confident enough to believe you can do it. Because if you can't even get that far with it, you are wasting your time. And again, wash the brain out. You are confident enough to do a lot of things. You have just been told either you can't, or you're scared, or whatever the case may be. Forget about that bullshit. You'd be amazed at what you can do. But most of the time, like I talked about it earlier, it's what people think, they can't do something is almost what the can becomes a can't. I can't do that because I have kids now. I can't, start a business because I don't have the money, or I don't have the, whatever. I don't want to sit here and start listing a million things. But you get my point. And I teach a lot of things regarding fitness. If you ever checked out my YouTube channel, I'm putting up a lot of things regarding helping men with fitness. And the truth is, when you go to work out, or when you sign up to work out, or if you're not planning on enjoying working out, you are going to be wasting your time. If you are going there and you're already miserable, you're uncomfortable, you're insecure, you don't want to learn, you're not open-minded, you're not watching videos, you're not reading, you're not comprehending. And again, I'm not saying you have to become obsessed with working out to get results. But what I am saying is you have to first say, I want to do this and I have the confidence to do this. And I talk about that too when people go to the gym a lot of times. When they go to the gym, most people I know that go to the gym, they're dragging ass. They're regretting it from the minute they wake up. They're almost like, I don't know if I'm going to work out today. I don't know if I have time. That's why most people join gyms. They quit. They'll work out for a month, quit for a month, go for 6 months. Then they're gone. Their weight fluctuates. And they emotionally just are constantly checking in or out. And the truth is they really just don't enjoy it. And I tell people all the time, if you want to work out or do anything, you have to first like it, man. That's how you stay consistent in it. And again, you may do things, I'm just relating to working out. You may try it out, go to a gym and be like, I don't like equipment. Go try basketball. I don't like basketball. Go hiking. I don't like hiking. Maybe, whatever, swimming. Try something until you find what you like. Once you do, it's going to be a whole different experience. And I think that's what your life needs as well. You need to start experiencing things you like and love to do. If you're not doing that, you're dying. I always go around and say, if you're not laughing, you're kind of dying. Or if you're not doing things you love to do, you're dying inside slowly but surely. That's just my theory on it. So just want to do a podcast on that one. A lot of times I do half an hour podcast. This one's probably going to be shorter, but please. There was one more thing I want to get into, actually. So I'm going to get a little longer here. But for the last couple of years, I've made it a point not to listen to commercials. So I quit kind of listening to the radio, even though I travel all over the country and I drive. So I basically just use my phone now. I, for the most part, listen to YouTube videos. I went premium on YouTube, so I don't have commercials there, which was amazing. Also, when I'm home, I DVR. I only, for the most part, 99.9% of the time, I will only watch something on television if it's recorded so I can fast forward through the commercials. The last thing I think I really watched with commercials that I remember would be maybe the Super Bowl. And so what happened was, after the last couple of years, and even if I'm in the car with my girlfriend or anybody, if a commercial comes on the radio, if they put a radio on, which is far and few between, I will immediately shut it off. I will not listen to commercials. And same with the television, is what I was saying earlier. Even if I go upstairs to my bedroom, I'll put on Netflix, Hulu, or I'll put on the Italian channel. What's funny is I'll watch them commercials because they kind of make me laugh. They're funny, a lot of them, if I'm watching TV shows, because it's about food I like and all these funny commercials. Anyways, that's a little different. So 2 years goes by and I was watching TV. I forgot what my girlfriend or son or whatever, they didn't have no problem watching commercials. And I said, I'm not going to be an asshole. And I forgot what we were watching. I think we may have, it was just a couple days. I said, let me just chill out, not be an asshole, and just watch whatever they want to watch. Because they want to watch some NBA. We forgot to tape some games, and they were going to watch something else on the news. And I just was like, said this week, I'll just watch whatever. And we ended up watching everything we usually watch, so there wasn't a lot being saved when I came back from traveling. But while watching TV now, I was shocked because I literally have not been watching any commercials, and I'm thinking, are they brainwashing us to make us think we're sick? Because it seemed to me every commercial is almost a medicine or something, either making you think you have a problem, or you're going to have a problem in your future, or they can cure the problem that you may think you have. all this crazy shit. Not only that, then you have the cars. Obviously everybody's trying to sell you a car, and then it goes into insurance, then it goes into cell phone, back to a car, back to a medicine, a pill, whatever the hell it is, a doctor's visits, insurance, health insurance, life insurance. It's so redundant. And same with the radio we put on the other day. I'm listening to these commercials, like, for one, they sound like the same shit I heard in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. I mean, the information that they're giving you is different because, the materials or the possessions or whatever have changed. But their pitch, their tone, I don't know about you, but I want to throw up. It sounds so horrible. And in my life, what I always thought about is I don't like to be sold, but I like to buy. I don't know if you ever heard that saying. Like, people like to buy, they don't like to be sold. I hate pressure sales, or I hate somebody constantly telling me something over and over again, especially things that I feel like you're wasting my time. And commercials, now that I haven't listened to them literally forever. And even if I go to a bar to watch a game, if, say, I'm watching it with a crowd of people, if a commercial came on, I would just talk to them, or I would just immediately turn my head. And again, on my phone, if something, or even if I'm at an airport and people are watching TV and I see a commercial, I just know at this point how to shut it down. I've almost brainwashed myself to shut out the noise. And that's what I'm going to try to tell you is, you don't have to go to the extreme I'm going to. But a lot of that is such useless bullshit, and it's infiltrating your brain constantly, especially the news. My God, you watch the news, you'd swear. And don't get me wrong, there's bad weather right now in our country. All over the world, for that matter. I get it. There's hurricanes, there's tornadoes, there's earthquakes. It's all going on. I get it. And I travel everywhere. But don't get me wrong, again, there's a lot of cities having a lot of problems. I don't want to sit here and make that sound like that's not serious. It is. But if you watch the news a lot of times, they'll show you all the worst cities that are going through the worst things. They'll almost make it sound like the whole country is in a constant state of emergency, right? I really believe that, especially more now than ever. Same with airplanes. Like, they'll milk something to death. And I think even with the terrorist situation, they've kind of let that go because that just doesn't hold value like it did before. But I'm telling you, don't believe, what's that saying? That funny saying that I used to love. It's don't believe anything you hear and half of what you see. Half the shit you're listening to or watching on television is bullshit, I promise you. I'm not getting caught up on fake news and shit, but it's just it's blown out of proportion is what I should say. There's some truth. There's a lot of exaggeration is what I should say. Definitely on the news. Same with the radio. And start, if you have an interest in something, there's nothing wrong with that. If you like weather and doing all that, or if you like, politics, religion, whatever, God bless you. But again, I would really be careful because most of the shit you're being told, even by others, is bullshit that other people told them. So it's a trickle-down effect. It's bullshit on top of bullshit. By the time it reaches you, it's absolute nonsense. If you took more time out of your day, not wasting your time, watching a lot of shit shows probably, shitty news things, and tons of commercials making you think that when you're this is going to happen, that's going to happen if you don't do it. Same old shit that you probably heard a lot of times when you were younger, installing all this fear of all these things may or may not happen to you. And I'm not against you being prepared for the future, life insurance, health insurance. So don't think that's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about you realizing that you are in a lot more control than you think you are, and don't let all this outside noise just destroy your brain. I'm telling you, wash your brain out of all this stupid shit. And it goes for people too. You got a lot of shitheads in your life. I'd hate to say it, you got to get rid of them, especially if they bring a lot of drama. They bring a lot of negativity. And I know that even a lot of people's kids are that way. A lot of our parents are that way. But you've got to set things straight. Do not get consumed in that, because before you know it, everything that kind of aggravates you, I think, is kind of what we almost end up becoming, and then now we're irritating other people. It may not be the exact same way, but it's almost like they're pissing us off and aggravating us. Now we're all out there aggravated. We don't even realize how many people we're pissing off. So again, clear that shit out. I call them anchors. I've said it before on my podcast. Cut those anchors away. Live the life you want to lead, and then hopefully they will follow suit. If they don't, it's on them. As people get older, especially kids or anyone, you have to understand you do not have to live in their misery, okay? And they don't have to live in yours. If you're an asshole, I call it all the time on the podcast, Most people don't realize what type of person they really are or how people perceive them. Start acknowledging that. Don't think you're a great guy or a great girl and everybody loves you, because a lot of times that's not the truth. A lot of people may like you, but they also may not like a lot of things about you. I'm not saying you got to change that you have to change who you are, but pay attention to that. Your actions, the way you behave towards your girlfriend, your wife, your kids, everybody, because sometimes you're the root of the problem. You don't want to admit it, but you are. All right, I'm going to wrap it up there. If you get a chance, check out my YouTube channels. I got a lot of stuff up there with fitness and different places I go to all over North America, including my favorite Italian restaurants, different gyms, and my helping people with confidence. And I'm on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter. And yeah, you can just go to richcelenza.com and check that out as well. But please don't let people brainwash you, especially if you're getting older. And stop living in fear. Kick it in the ass. Don't worry about the possessions or the things that you didn't get or that you don't have right now or any of that. Start really looking forward to the things you want to do in your life and really start enjoying them. And if you want to take on a business endeavor, what I would say to you, or fitness or anything, before you do it, learn as much as you can about it, right? Take your time. So if you do decide to work out, you don't have to run to a gym tonight. You know what I mean? Take your time, think about it, and say, what did I like to do, years ago? Oh, I'd like to do this. Oh, I played, hockey when I was younger. I haven't done that in 20 years. I used to like to run or whatever the case. Analyze it before you sometimes jump into it. Same with the business. Learn as much about it as you can, because sometimes we go full throttle, and then we fail, and then we quit. And that may happen anyways. Who cares? You just keep moving forward. But my point is just, please, take your time, clear your brain out, and start living the life you want to lead. That's all you can do. If not, you're living or dying, my friend. That's all you got. All right, take care, and if you're traveling, safe travels.